like, bro, yeah, she got a kid. Look at his back. Oh my god. Welcome back to another reaction. This is a Jordan Peterson reaction. This is Jordan Peterson destroys a question and answers. It's from 2000. This is February 25th, 2019. So this is a while ago. This is a while ago, I guess.
Yeah, it's a while ago, but I mean, still Jordan Peterson. Give me that.
Yeah, 2022 is time really moving fast out here, but crazy. That's what
It's
happens when
crazy.
you're on lockdown for all this time thinking.
You guys remember we're on lockdown?
Yeah, remember when you had your freedom? You can travel to a different state without having.
You remember everybody was all over each other at the wave pool, or
yeah. I mean, people still doing shit now. Niggas don't really care. Niggas going to
but
Travis
it
Scott
was
concerts, crushing.
different.
Bro, niggas going to Travis Scott concerts, crushing each other to death. I don't think niggas care that much.
yeah, but you're gonna put some hand sanitizer on after that.
Maybe, man. But we're gonna see what Jordan Peterson got to say. I'm thinking this is more of a.
Some hand sanitizer.
It's like a panel. They got different individuals from different aspects, different point of views to kind of like go back and forth. It's kind of like a debate. So it's gonna be interesting to see what he has to say. Our Jordan Peterson videos always do well. We like his insight. We like the stuff he has to, like to talk about.
I mean, usually, good things, progressive things that make sense.
Yeah, he's talking about self-growth, self-importance. The ability to be able to take responsibility for your life. If he says if you don't have a clean room, who the hell are you to try to change the world? You can't keep it.
I'm gonna do it highlight random people.
What do you mean? Oh, he's on the floor.
Yeah, it was. It's still a problem.
Good evening and welcome to Q&A live from Melbourne. I'm Tony Jones, here to answer your questions tonight. Political and military advisor turned author Catherine McGregor. Canadian author Jordan Peterson, whose book Personal Life Stand Against Political Correctness made him a philosophy rock star. Labor frontbencher Terry Butler, the federal government's special minister of state Alex Hawke, and writer, activist and Twitter queen.
Yeah.
Please welcome our panel. Thank you. Now, Q&A is live in Eastern Australia on ABC TV, iView, and News Radio. We had a lot of interest in Jordan Peterson.
How's it going down here, guys? You're getting shot at by fucking helicopters.
We've asked our
bullets.
panelists to keep their answers brief, under a minute if possible.
Crazy.
I will be interrupting if they go too long. Let's go straight to our very first questions from Dean Trough.
My question is for Professor Peterson. Professor Peterson, your rise to global stardom appears to be based largely on, I guess, the millions of people in the West who've been disenfranchised, whose worlds have been rocked and worldviews have been cracked by global movements that they are powerless to influence. Movements like socialism, globalism, and feminism. People, particularly young men, appear to regard you and look to you as a saviour. What is it what do you think they believe they need saving from?
Jordan Peterson, welcome to Australia.
Well, it's funny to regard me as a savior because what I tell people consistently is that they have to look to themselves. And it's not because I believe that people are in full control of their lives. We're all subject to bad breaks and sometimes to terrible luck, but your best bet is to do what you can to take care of yourself properly, to treat yourself like you're someone responsible for helping, which is rule 2, by the way. Partly because I do believe in this ancient, fundamentally Western idea that people are of intrinsic value. I mean, look, we're all given the sovereign right to organize our own states, the responsibility to vote. Our state, our very state, assumes that you have the wisdom to keep the ship of states sailing straight. And it's because there's something about you that, at least in principle, has the possibility of being remarkable if it can be manifested. And I'm reminding people that not only do we believe that, but that it seems to be true. And it isn't obvious to me that there is anyone, or there has been anyone for the last 4 or 5 decades, let's say, who's done a credible job of drawing a relationship between the meaning in life that you need to sustain you and responsibility, and not just for you, because it's not an individualistic idea. It's responsibility for you and your family
Coming up to
and your community. That'll do the trick. And your broader society.
Let me just, before we move on to the other panelists, can I just draw you to the final part of the question, because there's this fascination that many young men have for your message, and I guess he's suggesting our questioner there that's something to do with them needing saving from socialism, globalism, and feminism. Is there any truth to that?
Well, there is truth to the idea that they might need a certain amount of existential rescuing from the idea that the West is fundamentally best characterized as an oppressive patriarchy, which is absolutely absurd proposition, and that as a consequence, whatever actions they might take that are forthright and ambitious in terms of participating in that system are by the very nature of the system destructive. It's very difficult for me to understand how anybody can be properly motivated if that's the fundamental view of society and male participation in it. And I don't buy any of that. I think the idea that the West is fundamentally an oppressive patriarchy is an appalling idea, and the notion that the proper way to view history is as a battleground between ethnic identities in general or between men and women is it borders on pathological. And so it exceeds just merely bordering on the pathological.
Let's go around the panel on that, because there's plenty of time and other questions to explore that. Van Batten.
Oh, I just find it really interesting. Like, I'm a 44-year-old, middle-aged woman who lives in country Victoria, and because I'm a feminist, I'm suddenly terrifying. I mean, that's kind of flattering. But the bigger issue is looking at disenfranchisement. People aren't disenfranchised. If you're being sold that it's feminism, a movement for equality that's never thrown a bomb, that's never picked up a gun, that's disenfranchising you, or globalism or socialism. We have not lived in socialist economies in the West in a very long time. It's been 4 decades of neoliberalism, and it's neoliberalism which has smashed communities. It's neoliberalism which has made consumption and material acquisition dominant values in society. It's neoliberalism that has destroyed the workplace and made jobs insecure and made our experience of economy so unstable. If people are feeling disenfranchised, if men feel disenfranchised, please let me reassure you that women feel disenfranchised as well, because we are all living in this destabilised economy and we are all suffering from that kind of consumer ideology.
Alex Hall. Do you think men, start with this, do you think young men feel disenfranchised? And is it by those various isms that the question of...
Look, I do. I'm not sure that's helping what Van Batten said there about that destabilising message. I mean, it's true to say in some ways feminism and things like that haven't thrown a bomb or committed violence, but the worst violence, can be the violence of the mind. And I think men today in our society are told, virtually from their young age to now, when they grow up, that they're doing the wrong thing, that they have done the wrong thing historically, that there's no place for them. And I think that's what Jordan speaks to a lot of young men. And look, I'm a father of 3 young boys under 5, and reading a lot of Jordan Peterson's works through the book, I can understand why it resonates with a lot of people, because men today have lost their identity, and I think feminism has become a movement to overtake masculinity, and
I'm feminist. I don't want that.
Well, sure
I don't hate men. I'm not trying to destroy men.
But let's look at the empirical evidence. Let's look at the empirical in our schools. It's boys who are falling behind now, actually, in primary schools. It's boys who are falling behind at universities. It's young men who are suffering and have the worst mental impacts. It's the highest rates of youth suicide. It's a serious issue, and I think.
Especially you see the newer generation, because back then there was a constructed idea of a man. You provided for your family, you had a job, and you maintained that job in order to take care of people, specifically the family around you. So you had to be, inherently tough. And nowadays it's easy to be a victim, and nowadays it's easy for a lot of us to.
It's like the kids on social media, they're force fed
all the different shit on social media, all these different.
Men are this, men are that, men are this, or men are that.
Different points, literally that just cater to different viewpoints. You're seeing it now, the degradation of just certain identities being, manhood is now considered misogyny, being a misogynist, fraternizing women, having hoes and shit, and females is just independent, don't need a man.
She's just doing what she has to do.
just doing what she has to do, you know, just being completely separate from the man and don't need any
I just feel like if it's gonna be like they're taking sads and get to choose, it should just be equal, you know what I mean? But like women don't, I'm not gonna say women, I'm saying like people that like downplay men, they don't really want equality. They just want to be
you want to take their place. You want to be, and it's like take their place on what? It's like
they want to be able to pick and choose what they're able to. It's just.
You know, the question is right. I mean, yes, there's a lot of disenfranchisement in the world, but there are movements persecuting men.
That is not true. That is not true.
Okay, you made that point. Very much.
Well, I mean, Alex, I think that it's almost as though we're talking about a structural issue and you're talking about a personal issue. And people who take personally the idea that we need to change structures, I think are misreading what the complaint is that people have. And so for me, the problem that I have with kind of structural rigidity of gender roles for men and women is they hurt men and they hurt women. They hurt both. They hurt the men who want to stay home longer with their kids. They hurt men in real physical ways because we do have a problem in this country where women are more likely to be the victims of violence at home. Men are more likely to be the victims of violence in public. But in both, the common factor is it's men committing the violence by and large, not exclusively, but by and large. And so these rigid kind of ideas of masculinity hurt everyone. And so when we talk about feminism, when we talk about changing those structures, it's to create an equality for the benefit of everyone and to get rid of some of the things that hold everyone back.
Well, the first thing I would say is that I'm not anti-feminist per se. I mean, I think the idea that the world would benefit from the movement of talent from both sexes into the workplace as rapidly as possible is something that anyone with any sense should share, given the the rarity of talent and the necessity for utilizing it. I do stand by my original statement, though, that there's a brand of more radical feminism that insists that our culture is best characterized as an oppressive patriarchy, and I think that, first of all, that's an appalling sociological doctrine, and I think it has very negative psychological effects. And they won't be limited to men, because if it's true that there's something toxic, let's say, about masculinity per se, what that will inevitably mean is that as women adopt more masculine roles, traditionally, what is that toxicity somehow going to go away?
But that's just all men.
You gonna do it better?
There's anything toxic about masculinity per se.
What do you mean no one says that? The term exists. How is that a straw man? Well, where did the term come from?
It's a phrase that's used about forms of masculinity that are harmful to men and women. It's not about masculinity per se. You must know that.
I read the American Psychological Association guidelines for the treatment of boys and men, and I know perfectly well that this is no straw man. And it's not only devoted towards what you might describe as the more aggressive ends of masculine behavior. It's aimed at masculinity in a much broader range of. There's a much broader range of accusations that are under the surface than that. And so I don't see in what way at all that it's a straw man.
I'm just going to pause that argument for a second. Go to Catherine McGregor. And Catherine, I mean, you've lived on both sides of the gender fence. So what are your thoughts on these issues? And just get back to the question.
I don't know whether that qualifies me or disqualifies me, frankly. Sorry, guys, I ratted on the team, but not for any sociological reasons, intensely personal. I gather we might address that. But look, I'm not entirely out of sympathy with Jordan's critique. I'm the oldest person on this panel by you. In my lifetime, I've seen rolling institutional crises through the West. The great American settlement based on Bretton Woods, NATO.
Speak though.
I'm like, everybody just speaking so low. I
I asked
can't.
Jordan Peterson the only person I can fucking hear. You're not sure what you're saying?
We're seeing a dissolving global order now with the rise of two autocratic totalitarian capitalists.
You got a mic right there in your fucking mouth and you can't speak up.
I gather we're not doing the geostrategic stuff, but I think it's very alarming. When Robert F. Kennedy, who was my political hero, was running for the presidency of the United States in 1968, he addressed disenfranchised African Americans who were wearing the backlash from many white men who were losing their jobs, or perceiving that they were losing their jobs. The deindustrialisation of the West, as jobs are exported to the developing world, all of these factors are, Bobby Kennedy said it, it wasn't Jermaine Greer that said it. He said, when you remove from a man the right to stand before his family as a breadwinner, people will say that's patriarchal.
That's your minute, by the way. So
all right, well, I'll shut up. But the removal of meaningful work amongst especially unskilled men has a political consequence, and it's been washing through the American system since 1980 with the Reagan Democrats, the fraying of the New Deal coalition. I don't entirely agree with Jordan's analysis, but the problem can't be gainsaid. And 3 million books later in 50 languages or whatever it is. I bought your book, by the way, and you're outselling Shane Warne. Now, that's a culturally specific reference. That delights me in two ways, because in Australian cricket, no one has more bleached blonde hair or has had more work done than I, but Warne is a close second.
we should put that out on Twitter. Now, the next question is a video. It's from Milo Yiannopoulos in Miami.
Hey, Dr. Peterson, it's Milo Yiannopoulos. You talk a good game about standing up for men and for boys, and you've certainly amassed a big army of them. But a few of us have been wondering recently, with your silence on Kavanaugh, your silence on the innocent Covington boys, and then when you've said things like, for instance, when you told the New York Times' Barry Weiss that you thought I might be a racist when you know I'm not, that perhaps your actions aren't matching your words. Can you explain why, although you talk a good game about standing up against social justice warriors and the chaotic feminine, that when it actually comes down to it, you always seem to either fold, stay silent, or betray your allies?
Jordan,
Is that live? Haven't seen Milo for quite a long time. So, well, first of all, I don't believe that I'm obliged to comment on absolutely everything that happens everywhere in the world. I don't think that I am betraying my fundamental base.
Quick, someone call Jordan Peterson. Fuck, is he a fucking god?
He's a
professor.
I'd probably just as soon apologize to you for that. I don't think that I did defend you very well at that particular time. I don't believe that you're a racist. It was a question that caught me off guard in an audience that was exceptionally hostile and surreal. And so, insofar as that might be helpful to you,
Who's this bitch with a
I'd
smug
offer an
face?
apology for that. I don't think
She's
the
gonna
rest of
run
your
nerves.
accusations are warranted, however. So that's
Yeah, they was talking about how like there's not really any necessarily idea of what it is to be a man today. I mean, there really isn't. The idea of being a man is attacked. You know, the women you try to interact with act like they don't want nothing to do with you because they built this agenda where it's like, we don't need you anymore, you know. So now you're just seeing a lot of animosity for those who can't necessarily seem to get women, those men. I mean, you got a lot of terms for them. You got beta males. You got there's a lot of, they got a lot of shit to, to name these guys. But you got to understand, man. A lot of dudes after high school, they don't know what they're doing with themselves. These females, they got a plan. They go straight to the nursing fields, whatever other fields they got. They're making way more money by the time they're settled. You know, you got guys my age who may still be like, by the time they're 20, 30, they probably still don't know what they really got going on. They're still trying to figure themselves out, and then they see that their counterpart is doing way more successful than them. That's why you see a lot of guys commit suicide, because they can't seem to find themselves or place in this society. I mean, but like Jordan Peterson said, you gotta just be able to find within yourself that discipline, that will, that drive, whatever it may be, you know, to give yourself some type of purpose, you know, especially in the world nowadays where it seems like everything's falling apart and everything may not be what it appears to be. Yeah, you know. You just gotta be aware. You don't need to, there's no need to be hostile towards everyone. Patience is the key. Being able to acknowledge all the facts everywhere is the key. Being able to put together, you know, conjugated thoughts and thought out thoughts. Those are what's going to help you thrive. You know what I mean? But let us know if you want to see more Jordan Peterson down in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share. We want to see you next time. We'll be peace.
Da 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 da.